It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports, HawgSports.com. Arkansas, Mississippi State week. We're going to talk about the game, talk about the matchup a little bit. We're going to be joined with Steve Robertson over at Gene's Page, the 24/7 site that covers Mississippi State. Kevin Bohannon is going to hop on with us. Also, we're going to break down some of the keys to victory with this game. We're also going to talk a lot about the state of Arkansas football. In fact, that'd probably be the dominating discussion on this show, and where things are headed with this coaching search. And we'll take your questions also. All that and more on today's episode of HawgSports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team service centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. HawgSports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
Where to start? Let's talk. First, I want to talk a little bit of background about Arkansas football. And I always do these op-eds Tuesdays, Thursdays usually. And when I start writing them, I generally don't know where I'm going. It's very rare, actually, that I have an idea in my head of where I'm going. I just start writing and see where it takes me. I started writing about basketball, actually, and I was just kind of talking to young people about the importance of living in the moment right now with this Arkansas basketball program. And because, I mean, this has a chance to be such a special team. It really does. I mean, watching that game against Memphis, and that's kind of where I started from because I wrote this on Tuesday, and I started from there because the Memphis game, first third of the game, I'm just like, well, this is good for this team. It's got some young players. It's a reality check for them that they just can't roll the ball out there and beat everybody. Usually that carries over to the next game. It carries over to the next week. This one lasted about a third of this game, and then suddenly it's like 40-something to 40-something, and then it's like, see ya. I don't know how long you can keep Malik Thomas on the bench, and that's saying a lot because there's some really good players ahead of him. It has a chance to be something really special. When the 90s, I was in junior high and high school, and I just thought that's how it always was going to be. It took until Eric Musselman in my 40s before Arkansas basketball got to being really, truly relevant again. And Musselman squeezed a lot out of this program, obviously taking things to another level with John Calipari. So I talk about that 2011 season a lot when I get to football, and I'm kind of transitioning to this because I can remember being a little bit older, 2011, and thinking, after Arkansas beat Tennessee 49-7 to go 9-1 at that point, I just remember thinking how important it was to live in that moment and understand. I didn't think it was going to be gone so quickly like it was because it just disappeared. I mean, right after the motorcycle accident, unveiled all the other stuff with Bobby Petrino, and then, the last 14 years or so. The last 8 years is on the verge of being the worst 8-year stretch since World War II for Arkansas football. That includes the years when Arkansas joined the SEC. In 1992, when they were totally unprepared for that conference. And Razorback Stadium, for those old enough to remember, was basically just two grandstands with exposed carbon steel. There was no facade on the stadium. There certainly wasn't the things that they've added since then, the the Walker Pavilion, the Fred W. Smith Center, the Jerry and Gene Jones Student Athlete Success Center, the South End Zone expansion, the North End Zone expansion, the complete overhaul, and basically, they basically started from scratch with the Brulls Athletic Center. All of those things that they have done, and it hadn't made a damn bit of difference. It hasn't. We're talking about, again, Arkansas being in the worst 8-year stretch ever, where they are right now. We're gonna get to how things are hopefully going to change, and some of the plans, some of the things that I've heard about in the behind the scenes about where Arkansas is headed. But that just puts things in perspective, doesn't it, of where Arkansas was when they entered the conference, and now nothing has been better. Arkansas is basically the worst football program in the SEC. We can't include Kentucky just because they had a bad couple of years. Kentucky, the last 8 years, hasn't been what Arkansas has. Mississippi State, maybe they're battling Mississippi State, but if you look at the history, guys, aside from 2015 and 2021, Arkansas is just not. They have had one in the last 14 years. They have had one winning season in SEC play. And that season in 2015, Arkansas went 8-5. That season was torpedoed right out of the gate. I think it was like week 2 against Toledo. So the negativity started already before you even had a chance to have an enjoyable season, which, it picked up, obviously, but torpedoed very early. Consider this. Arkansas has won 69 games the past 14 seasons. Don't you dare say nice. It's not. Vanderbilt has won 68. Kentucky has won 72, Mississippi State's won 86, and South Carolina has won 90. I don't know about you guys, but for me, following this program for the last 40 years, I've always used Arkansas as a step above those programs, but they're not. Maybe you have to go way back historically, and you could say that, but they're not. Ole Miss, which at worst on a par with Arkansas, and really I always viewed Arkansas as a better program than Ole Miss. It should be. Which Ole Miss vacated every game in 2012 and 2016, and they still won 85 games in that time. Missouri, which vacated every win in 2015 and 2016, has won 90 games still. LSU, which has vacated 37 wins from 2012 to 2015, basically going winless 13 games each of those seasons, has still won 75 games. Arkansas, with all of its integrity, 69. Alabama and Georgia have won over twice, 157 and 151 combined. By the way, I want to say this too, to the NCAA, which does some dumb things, but I don't know if there's anything dumber than penalizing a team for violations by vacating wins. It's like me telling my daughter, hey, go clean your room. And she comes down, she says, hey, Dad, I cleaned my room. I'm like, okay, well, here's a piece of candy. Here's a treat, for doing that. And then I go upstairs and I just find scandal and lies. Open the closet door and everything just falls out onto the ground. And her punishment, remember that piece of candy I gave you? That didn't happen. You didn't enjoy that piece of candy. Is there anything stupider? Vacating wins. That's like telling the fans, you didn't go to those games and you didn't enjoy them. All right, back on the topic. For LSU, losing a night game in Death Valley was enough to pay the coach $54 million to leave and never show his face in Baton Rouge again. This is a narrative I hear a lot, like nobody hurts more than the players. I agree with that, first of all, because I've seen the players, but I hate when people say that. Because to me, it mitigates what the fans feel. The fans, who are the only people being asked to give. Fans and boosters, the only ones given to this thing. The players at least get a free education, and now they're getting paid. The university makes money. The team makes money. Everybody's making money except for the fans, who get told when, somebody loses that the players hurt. Nobody hurts worse. I hate that. And the only thing that the fans have got to enjoy this season are, basically the hype videos at the beginning of the year and, beating the crap out of your stepson, Arkansas State. That's about it. Hog fans' day gets worse after the tailgate. So this is the time to make things right. And I think from what I hear, Arkansas is on that path to make things right. And we're going to talk about that right after I tell you about my buddies over at Blakeman's. This holiday season, shop for a meaningful gift that will last at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers, and from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. Okay, now where are we headed? So what I've been told from a couple of people now, a couple people on this particular topic, but this comes from several different sources that I've heard over the last few days. But Arkansas is in the process of raising tens of millions, and I don't mean 20 million. I mean tens of millions through the Razorback Foundation over the next few years, with a focus on supporting the football program in a way that it has to be supported. And that kind of means getting in from the coach, from the head coach to the support around him, having the advanced scouting department, having, salaries for assistant coaches that are competitive, getting Arkansas from a place of 14th, basically, in the SEC to a competitive, more middle of the road. Now, it's interesting, like I pointed out, like Arkansas, the talks is Arkansas would pay $8-9 million for the right coach. That's what I have been told. And somebody responded like, it seems like if Arkansas does that, they're going cheap. Lane Kiffin makes $9 million. Eli Drinkwitz makes $9 million. James Franklin did not make $9 million at Penn State. If you go above $9 million, you start talking about top 10 money. So to me, like that's a pretty massive improvement when we're talking about raising this amount of money to support the program. Now, if you want to go out and get like a guy that's huge, like a James Franklin, whose name has been discussed, Arkansas, Virginia Tech, there's a lot of discussion. There'll be other teams, I'm sure. You would probably need somebody to sponsor him, kind of like John Tyson and John Calipari. Like you would need a billionaire type to say, hey, I'm behind this guy. So that's important to note. But that doesn't mean they can't go out and get a big-time coach. That's big-time coach money. That's what big-time coaches money. Kiffin, Drinkwitz, they didn't make that kind of money there. So that is what I've been told is in the process of happening. And with Pittman, his current position or his position as head coach did not have the resources to win. We know that Hunter Yurachek has said that. But it's also a double-edged deal for Pittman because people weren't willing to support him from a financial standpoint. So there was no choice to move on from Pittman. That was the only option because people weren't going to support it. It doesn't mean that those options and that money isn't out there. People just weren't. They didn't believe in him. And Arkansas should have capitalized in 2021, of course, but a lot has changed since then. Yurachek has also been hamstrung. And from what I understand, now this isn't everybody. I've heard people are very disappointed with Yurachek, people with deep pockets. But I've also heard, as far as like board of trustee goes, that they recognize that he's been hamstrung with lack of financial support for football. So the idea is to get that influx of money, inject that money into the football program, into the Razorback Foundation, and give him the support that he needs to hire a coach, to hire the staff and all that stuff, and he'll be judged on that. That's what I've been told. There's also, I've been told people are very, want change at AD, so there's going to be two sides to everything. But that's what I've heard from the board of trustees standpoint, and they feel confident that they're going to be able to get a coach. It all comes down to the coach. Obviously, you have to have support, but like you can look around, great coaches win. I mean, we're going to point to Cignetti a lot, obviously, but Cignetti is making $11 million plus at Indiana. He wasn't making that when he got there. I think he's gotten 2 raises since he's been there. He turned that thing around. It's about that coach. That's what, and it doesn't hurt to have a really good quarterback, So if you get that, you can get that swell of support and stuff. But I don't know that I think Arkansas will, have a chance to get a good coach, but like the idea that they're going to go out and get a guy who is, a big time Power 5 sitting coach or something and just take him, like that feels like a pipe dream. There have been some names out there, but anyway. So get Arkansas to the middle of the pack in the SEC. Try to move forward with that. That is what I'm told is the plan. So just the way I wrote it, I've been told that Arkansas is in the process of raising tens of millions of dollars within the Razorback Foundation with the focus of supporting the football program in a way it has to be supported. Money that will go toward hiring a coach with a notable salary and providing him with the support he needs. So hopefully that's what's happening, because if that's not what's happening, Arkansas has no business telling the fans to come spend money. And I'm serious, $13 pretzel. I bought a pretzel at the basketball game with cheese sauce, goo, and it was $13.46 or something like that. Like, so that's fine. Pay $13 for a winning football program and a good show, but Arkansas fans just haven't been treated to much at all. You have to have the money to win. You can have magic and strike with a coach, but like you're not going to take things to the next level without winning. So Calipari's also been big for Arkansas football. Like he knows how to get deals done. He's big on getting his players involved with businesses. And that's something that's, separate from the foundation and stuff, the NIL side of things. And it remains to be seen still how the Clearinghouse and Deloitte Accounting, how they'll handle everything. They have rejected a number of offers, I know. As one person said, it's not just how much you can raise in NIL, it's how much you can get cleared in NIL. But they still need businesses to, donate $25,000, $100,000. And I do think that there is more of an opportunity for a return on those investments versus just giving the money. And the athlete puts a tweet out like, having people come to your business, do autograph signings, commercials, all those kinds of things. They do have to be more legitimate because the Clearinghouse will flag those kinds of things. So I have been told Remy Cofield's doing a good job working on deals, putting together deals. His role is also separate from the NIL department that's being built within the university, where they need to also have that advanced scouting department for when the transfer portal opens, which is going to be quick, to be on top of that and know the players that they need to go after, and then also have kind of an outline deal of what they're willing to offer for those players. You can also, I'm told, expect logos on jerseys in the future. Obviously, the stadium has got to be named, which I guess will be done through Learfield, but we're going to start seeing logos, company logos on jerseys. And that's been done by professional teams for a really long time. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see if all this comes to fruition, but that is what I've been told is the plan right now. You have to have that financial backing. So it's a big game between Arkansas and Mississippi State this weekend just to see who's the bottom dweller in the SEC. And we're going to bring on Steve Robertson. I see he's ready. We're going to go ahead and bring in Steve. I said Robertson. That's actually my father-in-law, Robertson. I get him confused all the time. He texted me the other day, and I was like, this is my father-in-law. He likes the article I wrote, but it was Steve. So Steve is coming to us via the Ozarks Go hotline. If you are looking for reliable internet service, then look no further. You can go to ozarksgo.com. ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG, or reach out to them at 479-684-4900. As I always like to say, my internet has worked consistently for 4.5 years since I've had them, even before they were a sponsor on the show. ozarksgo.net/hawg, several different tiers of internet service, and a local company Northwest Arkansas, ever expanding parts of Oklahoma. Check them out at ozarksgo.net/hog. Steve, how's it going, brother?
Man, things are great. I get to see my grandchildren tomorrow, so that makes that trip to Northwest Arkansas even more important, But yeah, I mean, things are good for the most part. Could stand to win a couple more football games, but outside of that, man, things are good.
Yeah, things are good. It's important to remember things are good, even though Arkansas and Mississippi State have both really struggled on the gridiron this year and really had their guts ripped out plenty of times. Both these programs are familiar with one-score losses. Mississippi State's lost a couple of overtime games, including last weekend where they just kind of blew it against Texas. I mean, had that game and just blew it. And Arkansas is familiar with that too. What's the state of Mississippi State right now? No
Well,
pun.
it depends on who you ask. I mean, the rank and file fan out there, they're like, hey, it's great to play these games close, but we want to win these games. I mean, there's no denying that Mississippi State's a better football team than last year. The record reflects that. However, I don't know that the record is truly indicative of how much better State has been. And when you've got talent, and you don't win, then people say, what's got to be coaching? And I really think last week that's really what happened. I mean, yeah, you had some guys maybe not perform the way you want, but when you're up 17 at home against anybody with less than 12 minutes to go, you got to get that thing across the finish line. There were times they were snapping the ball 25, 26 seconds left on a play clock when you're up 2 scores or about 5 minutes to go. The clock is your friend.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter how much you win by unless you're gambling. You just need to win a ball game. And you win that one, and all of a sudden you got, 4 more chances to get one and get bowl eligible. And, you go back to the Florida game. Going to be a long field goal, but you can't gamble there. You at least got to attempt the field goal, and State kind of removed all possibilities of doing that. And again, that's the struggle of a first-time head coach, right? I mean, sometimes you just have to make the football play. And when you've been an offensive coordinator your whole career, you're go, 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 right? I mean, sometimes you just got to be able to back off a little bit and say, let's take what we have here. But yeah, there's an argument that could be made. This Mississippi State team should be 7-1. You had the ball with less than 2 minutes to go and a couple timeouts to work with against Tennessee in a game where you've led most of the game. And then you blow it at Florida and blow it at Texas, and against Texas, you just feel like you just need one of these to go your way to kind of right the ship.
Yeah. Almost feels like you just sometimes don't know how to win. You're like a bear. You have these big claws. You don't know how to kill the bunny, as they say. But yeah, Arkansas deals with the same thing, just like doing just enough to lose the game. And even though when it feels like they're in complete control of it, what would you tell us right now about the injury report and the impact that those have had right now on Mississippi State?
Well,
anybody coming back that's been missing?
Yeah, Fluff Bothwell not being available the last couple of weeks has been a factor. But he was carted off the field at Texas A&M, and get down to post game, and his parents are in the locker room, and you begin to think, well, this thing is not going to go well. Get home, pictures are positive. Everything works well. It's just a matter of his pain tolerance. He dressed last week for warm-ups and was a game time decision. He was a late scratch, but he wasn't ready. He is expected to go this week against Arkansas. And maybe it's a specialized situation where he's only working in short yardage. I mean, goodness, if you had him in short yardage last week, it's probably a different conversation this week, because there were multiple times State was in these 3rd and 1, 4th and 2 type situations and just didn't have the benefit of a guy like Fluff. And so getting him back is big. Jed Jefferson has been kind of in and out of the availability report throughout the year, was pushing a cart around against Southern Miss, but it was mainly just kind of recovering from something. But, there's no significant injuries out in that respect. And, looking at you guys, I mean, like I write this report every week. It's like there's nobody new that's out. I mean, there's a couple of guys on the offensive line, with Amari and Kittler that you look at and say those guys are questionable. But, we're expecting to play the same Arkansas team that Bobby Petrino has put on the field the last 3 weeks. I mean, so there's no new significant injuries, I think, in that respect. So nobody at Mississippi State is like looking at that availability report thinking, oh, great. They're expecting to see a very good ball game and seeing an Arkansas offense, even with Taylor being somewhat limited, that's going to be able to score some points.
Yeah. Somebody on our message board said Fluff Bothwell sounds like a character in Anchorman. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about Blake Shapen and the weapons at his disposal, this Mississippi State offense? And by the way, you made a point earlier about snapping the ball with like 26 seconds left and stuff. That drives me crazy, but coordinators are often just like, we go fast. That's just how we do things, and I don't know. That drives me a little crazy, but obviously that was a big hit for Mississippi State last year, losing him to injury. How's he been this year?
Well, when he has time and things go to script, he's really, really good. And if his first read is there, it's usually going to be a very positive play. What happens with him sometimes the first and second read's not there. He's got to work through his progressions, and the offensive line at times hasn't really held up, and you can tell he gets a little antsy back there. But when things go the way that he expects them to go, when his pre-snap read is good, he can be a real handful for opponents out there. So, State's got to keep Blake clean. It's as simple as that. If they can keep him upright and give him some time to operate, he should be in good shape. The challenge has been when teams have been able to kind of get some hits on him early, he gets a little bit, a little anxiety. You start thinking, I got to get the ball out quicker, and sometimes you rush it and throw it behind guys a little bit. I mean, you go back and look at that first play in overtime, Brennan Thompson is going to score, but the throw is behind him, and next thing you know, essentially the game is over. But State should have never been in that position in the first place. I mean, there was just so many opportunities to even put even further distance between themselves and Texas, and that's what's so frustrating is you go play Florida in the very first quarter, it feels like you can do whatever you want to. Then you have this mid-game malaise and then get cranked up again. Well, you didn't have that against Texas. I mean, you got a really good third quarter and you answered in the fourth quarter. And so you felt like things were on track. But, Blake is a guy that hadn't played a ton of college football. People look up and say, oh, he's a redshirt senior. He's had some injuries throughout his career. He won the Big 12 championship game. And then the next year had a bit of a knee injury and then had a concussion situation. So he hadn't played a ton. So he's not a guy that's got a ton of snaps under his belt. And that's not being disrespectful. That's just kind of how it is. And then, of course, you lose him last year against Florida with that shoulder injury, required, season-ending surgery. But he's the best Mississippi State has as far as executing the full complements of this offense. Now, Kamario Taylor is the future, we think. And he has been a situational guy. He's been a short yardage guy. Thrown a couple touchdown passes, threw one last week against Texas. And a lot of people are thinking he's always going to run, kind of like Mike Rhett was in that 2023 game in Fayetteville. That beauty of a ball game, Trey, that you and I covered that ended in a 7-3 game. That
was the worst game I think I've ever covered.
What's so funny about that is like Mississippi State has a touchdown called back on kind of a questionable block in the back. I could see it going either way. And then Arkansas has a scoop and score negated because Mississippi State wasn't lined up yet, like on a false start play. I mean, it's like,
that feels typical of both of these teams. Like a penalty bails the other team out,
Well, so my wife and I are walking out of that stadium, and she goes, man, that was a rough game. I said, I'm just so happy to get a win, no matter how this thing looks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that year, it was a tough year, and Will Rogers was out, and you just didn't know what to expect. And we saw Mike Wright in practice. And that's the thing, too, Trey, you know this from being on this beat as long as you've been. Sometimes the message board and social media narrative doesn't match what you and I see in practice. And, I wonder where this stuff comes from. And sometimes people just make it up to glean some self-esteem and internet cred. But, we had people on social media talking about how Mike Wright was lighted up in practice, the same practices that we were going to, And Mike is a great guy, and situationally, he's a great quarterback. But he's not a guy that you can go out there and expect to get, 80 snaps out of and have continuity on offense. I mean, his misses were huge. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, some sourced scrimmage report, he's really pushing Will Rogers for the starting position. It wasn't even like that. And then all of a sudden, Will Rogers gets hurt and Mike Wright gets out there, and then we go to Fayetteville, and people kind of saw what we saw in practice. But of course, it doesn't stop these keyboard cowboys from, showing up the next year with their new source report and that kind of stuff. I mean, those people are a bane to our existence. They make our job so much harder.
Yeah, I agree. That game also, I don't know if you remember, Arkansas's only points in that game came off of a Jalen Braxton interception. Was it interception or fumble recovery?
It was interception the first drive. I think it's the first pass right through.
Yeah, yeah. Was Shapen, that was a shoulder blade or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, so ball gets on the ground, he reaches in to get it as a Florida player is like diving on it, and it just kind
Mhm.
of, it wasn't a hyper extension, but it was kind of the same philosophy, except there was like, a break there.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
you
Blake
don't
is
hear
a
about
great
that one
young
that
man,
much.
and
Yeah.
I'd say the thing about Blake too that's impressive to me is like he's never shied away from the tough questions in post game. Some of these guys you just kind of feel they're kind of angsty and they just want to get out of there and get a shower and get home and get to the after party or whatever. But Blake has always kind of hung in there and answered whatever question. I don't just mean the coach speaky answer. He'll even tell you, I've never really considered that. Or, that's a really good question. But he is a leader, and the guys really believe in him. And the reports that I've gotten out of practice, it's been a really good week of practice.
This defense flipping you over to the other side of the ball, it's not, at least on paper, it's not a bad defense. It's kind of middle of the pack. They're really good on third downs. What can you tell us about what State does under Coleman Hutzler on defense?
Well, it is a dramatically different defense than last year from a personnel standpoint. Obviously, schematically, most things are the same. They brought in Mike McIntyre and Paul Rhodes both as analysts, so they've kind of had their fingerprints on some things. But Coleman Hutzler's done a good job this year. Nobody's calling for his job last year. It was a weekly occurrence, but they just didn't have the guys last year. There was a time, as a segment last time we played Arkansas, that you had Kyle McClendon, a true freshman who had played 1 year of defensive line in high school, and then Corey Clark, a junior college player that they signed in June that didn't have anywhere to go. And then you're going up against one of the most formidable rushing teams in the conference, with two guys that hadn't hardly played any college football. And so it was kind of cruel and unusual punishment, for the Bulldogs. So they committed a lot of scholarship spots in the portal to the defensive line. That group looks a lot better. Will Woodson had exploded early on, and then he had a season-ending injury, which is unfortunate. But Calvin Dinkins is a guy that we were really high on, kind of a small town, late high school, senior type success story. State actually had to hold off Florida to get him out of Lake High School. I don't think they've ever had an SEC prospect in their history until him. And you lose him in 2023 and 2024 in the season opener, both years. This year, he's finally healthy. He's playing well. He's kind of a load in the middle. And even when he doesn't make the play, he occupies blockers and frees things up for the backers. So you're going to see a defensive line that is more commensurate with the rest of the SEC. What you saw last year was, you could basically just pull kids out of stands. That's hyperbole, but that's kind of the reality of it. They just, State didn't have any depth, had to dismiss a couple of guys, had some guys get injured. And so you're playing with guys you never intended to play with in the Southeastern Conference. And then the secondary is so much better. Some of that is a byproduct of getting better pass rush. But Kelly Jones is a guy that, in the beginning, nobody really was recruiting this guy. I was on a state show earlier this week, and when I first heard about Kelly Jones, all he had was junior college offers. And so I called his coach, Henry Johnson, and I was like, what is the deal with this kid? Does he not have grades? He goes, Steve, he's a full qualifier. We don't understand it either. Now he's the top-rated cornerback in the country. This is a guy that is a legit 6'2", has his hands, his catch radius is ridiculous. His hands go all the way down to his knees. I mean, it's freakish to look at him. And he's a legit 4'3" guy. He's not one of these guys that it's 4'3" at a combine when your coach is holding a stopwatch. And a lot of people were testing him early on, and everybody said, well, he's rated really high because they haven't played anybody. Well, they played somebody now. He's won some matchups against Chris Brazel from Tennessee, matched up with Wingo last week. But with his foot speed, and now he's learned some nuance of the position because he was a high school quarterback. It took him probably 2 years to figure out how to defend passes rather than throw them. He's really coming to his own, and that's allowed State to kind of shade a safety the other way to kind of help in that pass coverage. And Jerron Manning has been a kind of a godsend too. He was kind of an undervalued transfer guy, but he's the leader of that secondary and has consistently done a really good job kind of getting guys lined up and being a captain back there. So linebacker group is good, maybe not as good as they have been historically, but a better defensive front than you saw last year and a secondary that is kind of finally rounding into shape.
Steve, let's get you out of here real quick. Just real quick, your thoughts on how you think this game plays out and if you got a score prediction.
Well, I don't know if I've got a score prediction. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. I think both of these offenses have shown a lot of firepower as of late. I mean, you look at what Arkansas has done the last 3 weeks. I mean, that I don't want to bring it back up, Trey, but the Notre Dame game, I mean, that's that's one of the worst games I've ever seen Arkansas play in my life. And to see Bobby Petrino kind of pick that team up, that they were broken, and pick them up and then have 2 weeks to prepare and probably should have beat Tennessee. And then you look at the numbers they put up against A&M when nobody scored against A&M. I think going into the Arkansas game, there had been 3 third-down conversions against that A&M defense in SEC play. That gets your attention, So, we feel like this is going to probably be a higher scoring game, certainly more than we saw in 2023, our last trip to Fayetteville. I do think State finds a way to get it done because of their ability to run the football. I think they will mimic some of what Auburn did, kind of some ball control stuff. I think you learn a little bit from last week. You don't always have to go wide open. But I think Taylor Green not being 100% is probably a factor in this game too. So we'll see. If State can slow down the run, I don't think there's any way to stop the Arkansas running game. But if you can slow it down just enough and get off the field on third downs, I think I like State in a close one that probably goes down to the last possession.
Steve, we always appreciate having you on, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to seeing you guys. And I still, we're not using the same barber. I see we still haven't made that, that change. So
no ball jokes. I want to be able to have you on again.
Absolutely, brother. Man, I look forward to seeing you guys. Y'all take care.
All right. Appreciate you, Steve. All right, everybody. That's Steve Robertson, and you can follow him over at Gene's Page, which is the Mississippi State site dedicated to the Mississippi State Bulldogs, 24/7 Sports. Walker Brothers, fine menswear. Walker Brothers brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world. Carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or at their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. All right, we're going to bring in Kevin Bohannan. K-Bo, what's up, brother?
Man, it's going good. You're going to get some voiceover work pretty soon with all those ad libs.
I'm getting better at it.
You are.
I've never done any ad reads until this year, but I'm lucky to be able to do with companies like Walker Brothers and Blakeman's. People.
Oh, yeah.
I have relationships with people at both of those places. I've been with Ozarks Go forever, of course. And, of course, our friends over at Crain. And, yeah, it's good. And Bet Saracen, we've been with them for another year. So, new to the game. But, Kevin, what do you first of all, any baseball news, anything baseball-wise we need to be aware of coming up?
Yeah, the 2027 class is really picking up right now. They got 4 top 100 commits, including their highest, Levi Leathers. He's a 6'4" third baseman, swings it from the left side. He committed 2 days ago. So Arkansas is number 8 right now, according to Perfect Game. That includes a couple of guys that have not been seen by Perfect Game as much. So I think their rating will increase, their overall ranking will increase. But coincidence, Trey, only one player from the state of Arkansas in that 2027 class from the natural state. So that class overall is down inside the state. So Nate Thompson and everybody's done a great job going out of state, identifying really good talent and getting commitments early on.
You can always go and look at penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries. It's always going to play a role, decision-making in key moments, wrapped around the whole idea of making your opponent pay when they make mistakes.
Yep.
And it always decides games. I mean, we saw the last game, like we can talk about all the different things that Arkansas should have done or could have done, but it comes down to breaking that one rule about turning the ball over, and they did it 4 times. You're just not going to beat anybody doing that. So having said that, we also always ask 5 burning questions. Number 1 question from you this week is, can the Hog defense have back-to-back solid performances? Because they gave them what they needed against Auburn. Auburn maybe a little bit incompetent on offense. Mississippi State a little more high-powered.
Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to do against an incompetent offense. Yes, they scored the first drive of the game, but that was the only time Auburn got to the end zone. You held them out 6 other times. Yes, their kicker had a Lou Groza-type day, kicked 6 field goals. But other than that, the defense played really well. That's even with Xavier Sorey taking off every other play. And I went back and I've watched film and just highlighted him and look. And there are times where there are still lapses in effort. So they get everybody on the right page, and that just goes back to what Dix and Sorey said the other day about Petrino getting the interim tag pulled off. You can tell there's a division in the team. Petrino can say
question.
He's looking ahead.
I asked that question, Kevin.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, I asked Rohan Jones and Raylan Sharp, and they couldn't have said more good things. And yes, Stephen Dix and Xavier Sorey, and it's not their place to say.
Yeah, no, man.
Maybe it had something to do with him firing, their defensive coordinator and position coach. But
yeah, and Dick said, look, he's the head coach right now. We're going to get behind him 100%. But are you? So they have to step up. They're grinding it out on their own. Petrino has said on a couple of occasions they have to play better this week. Blake Shapen, the offense is good. They're not world beaters by any means. I think Blake Shapen has some very bad habits. He gets flat-footed in the pocket. He's thrown 5 interceptions. Arkansas just has to catch them when they're thrown to them this week.
So none of this really matters if we don't see the Taylor Green that we saw it against Tennessee and some other teams this year, Ole Miss. And he has his lapses. It seems like for a stretch we'll see 5 to 7 plays of just like, what are you doing, Taylor? And the rest of the time it's like somebody took the kryptonite out of the building. He looks like Superman. Yeah. This past weekend, those 5 to 7 plays happened to happen in the fourth quarter. And not that the Arkansas offense was explosive, but that was a very good Auburn defense. You think we're going to see the Taylor Green that we saw against Tennessee, as I mentioned, Ole Miss, some of these other teams, not the one that we saw against Auburn?
Yeah. The good thing is he's healthier, and that's one thing that Coach Petrino pointed out in Wednesday teleconference meeting with the media, that he's going full speed. That's a good thing. I think that had something to do with his play last week. He just didn't look as nimble in the pocket. Of course, DJ Durkin and the Auburn defense had a ton to do with that. Xavier Aikens was linebacker of the week. He's one of the best, and I highlighted that early in the week in the advanced look. They need to know where he is at all times. They're going to get the same look from Mississippi State this week. If I'm any other team the rest of the season on Arkansas' schedule, I'm looking at what DJ Durkin did last week against Arkansas. They made the changes in coverage in the second half. They went to more zone. They went to a cloud coverage, which Taylor Green knows how to see. He has to recognize that ahead of time. The offensive line has to have some pride this week. Coach Petrino also pointed that out. I believe the O-line will have some pride. They want to come out and run the ball, establish the run. That was the key to Arkansas playing well on offense against Tennessee and Texas A&M. If they do that this weekend, I think they'll have a shot to be in the game late in the fourth quarter.
I wonder a little bit with Durkin, not because Arkansas has changed a lot on offense since Petrino was at Texas A&M, but just from a tendency standpoint, having worked with him, because Arkansas didn't fare very well against Auburn last year either. I wonder if that plays a role into it. But for Taylor to have a good game, the offensive line has to play better. And I've kind of zeroed in on the idea that Arkansas has a pretty good offensive line, and that's above average. It's not average. I think it's a pretty good offensive line by SEC standards, which is a dramatic improvement where they were last year and the year before that. They did not have a very good game against Auburn, which is very talented up front.
Yeah, I agree.
You think
100%.
that they can bounce back as a unit?
Yeah, I agree 100% in your assessment right there. You saw Corey Robinson. He'll miss some blocks. He'll get lazy at times on some slide steps. He got called for holding last week. Marion Harris still has lapses in the run and pass game to where his guy just goes right by him. We used to call it the lookout blocks. And you're telling the quarterback, just look out, or the running back, look out. So there has to be better up front. Caden Kittler, Harris, they were questionable on Wednesday's player availability report. Have to make sure they're healthy. I haven't seen anything to the contrary that they won't play on Saturday. I believe that group itself is stronger. They're going to come out with a little bit of pride, and it takes all 11 on offense when you're talking about excelling in the rushing attack. Linemen have to block, obviously. Taylor Green has to make the right reads. The running backs have to make their right tracks and right pickups in the rushing game.
All right. Can Arkansas outcoach them? I mean, we have seen Arkansas really lull in the third quarter and in the second half of games after looking unstoppable at times in the first half. Can Arkansas outcoach these guys?
Yeah, and I brought up this point, Trey, just by what you said right there. Anything that's scripted, Arkansas has looked very good on offense the first drive coming out of the gate. As the game goes along and adjustments are made, you saw it last weekend against Auburn. It's like Arkansas just kept going to the well, the same thing over and over and over again, and it wasn't there. Good coaches are going to make adjustments with their players and coach them up. I also brought up the question, has Petrino focusing on offense a little too much taken away from him having an impact in special teams, defense? You've seen it a little bit on defense, but, overall, is he not being able to be that CEO like he was 15 years ago because he feels so much pressure to get the offense going? And when it goes downhill, it seems like the whole team just kind of goes downhill. I know it's only 3 games, but you can really kind of see that. I want the coaching staff to come out, show something this weekend, and that they're going to be able to out-scheme somebody.
Who knows what LSU has together, but and Texas obviously has been not what we thought Texas was going to be. Missouri's been pretty much what you thought they would be. Is this Arkansas's last chance to get a win this season, and do you have a score prediction? How do you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, I firmly believe that this is their best shot to get a win. I think the last 3 games are just going to be – they're going to be a big underdog. So this is the second last game of the season in Fayetteville. Unfortunately, it went really quick. They had a 3-game homestand right in the middle of the season, and then you got 2 on the road at Texas and LSU. Right now, the score prediction, I'm thinking something 34 to 26 or something like that in favor of Mississippi State. I just can't see Arkansas winning this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't remember what my score. I mean, it goes back to like me picking against Missouri. Because I just don't see it enough. Like I've seen it happen the other way so many times. And my Q&A deal I did with Gene's page, I picked Mississippi State 35-34 just because Arkansas keeps finding ways to lose games. I didn't particularly like our interview with the linebackers.
Yeah.
And I think that there are people that obviously want Petrino to succeed, but I think there are people that maybe don't. So Arkansas keeps finding ways to lose games. I don't see why they shouldn't find ways to lose this one. Maybe they'll surprise us. I mean, there have been times we've all been surprised. I remember going to Auburn during John L. Smith years thinking they were just going to get their doors blown off, and they beat them. They beat Auburn.
Yeah.
That 2012 team also playing Kentucky, which Kentucky wasn't good then, but Arkansas beat them like Bobby Petrino was still the head coach that year. Like nothing had happened. So, things happen in college football. I just think that Mississippi State is on a rebuild trajectory in year 2 and, kind of a rally. And they have to win this game. I mean, their schedule coming up is brutal. Like they got to win this one and win one more to get to bowl eligibility. And I don't know, Arkansas has to win every game. Arkansas is not getting to a bowl game. So,
yeah. It's going to be tough, and as I pointed out in the the intro of the article this morning, look, Jeff Libby's team is better. They started out the year with the win against Arizona State. Now Kenny Dillingham's team is not the same one that made the playoffs last year, but this team is trending in the right direction. They've played Texas A&M close for a half. They lost at Florida. They're close, and unfortunately, the last time they won an SEC game was that game 2 years ago. I don't want to even bring it up because it was so ugly. But I just have a feeling that, we all picked Arkansas to beat Auburn last week. I have a feeling that won't happen again this week.
Yeah. We haven't even really talked about coaching candidates and stuff, but Kenny Dillingham has been a name that's been talked a lot. Our man Keith Grayson, has talked a lot about Keith lives in Arizona. He's talked a lot about it. And he says that Arkansas has been in direct contact with his representation. And, some of the ideas are that Dillingham has kind of done all he can at Arizona State, which is where, he went to school and stuff. And there are a lot of people that think that he'll be elsewhere. Obviously, James Franklin's a name that's been bandied about a lot this week. And Virginia Tech's been talking about him. And, I've mentioned John Sumrall. I think John Sumrall will be in line for a big job. And there's talk like, will Lane Kiffin go to LSU or Florida? Will Eli Drinkwitz go to Florida or somewhere else? And, a lot of talk about all the dominoes that could be falling in college football. You got any kind of personal favorite or anything from this list of coaches? Where do you want to see Arkansas go?
Yeah,
Even Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury was brought up yesterday by some random site.
Yeah, I'm a big Cliff Kingsbury fan. He comes in that Lane Kiffin type mold of I don't give, he's that kind of guy. I'm gonna go out there, call plays. I'm gonna score 100 on you and try to catch me if you can. I just don't think
evaluate quarterbacks.
He really, yeah. Once you get to the NFL, it's hard to really take that step back. And I think he's maybe in line for something higher in the pro level. Look, I still think somebody like Dan Mullen would be a great fit at Arkansas. I don't think that may happen. I just have that feeling, but he would be the one. I want somebody experienced. He doesn't have to be somebody that's young, up and coming. I just think Arkansas misses out on those guys too much, whether it be any, basketball or football. Baseball really hadn't had that opportunity, but I just don't see how. I think they would parlay that job into something else. And I think it has to be a little safer at Arkansas for John Summerall or Eric Morris at North Texas to take that kind of step, even though it would be a great step up for those guys. I honestly think it may be some kind of a retread or a coach that's had experience in the Power 4 ranks before.
They need somebody to get Arkansas back to being competent and competitive. And if that's a retread or whatever, maybe that's just this step. I mean, you had to hire Eric Musselman before you hired John Calipari. It wouldn't have worked any other way. But there are coaches out there that maybe they're unexpected. I think it's a very good chance right now where we are that it may be someone totally unexpected that Arkansas ends up hiring. Last week, it's amazing how vibes changed because last week we're talking about Bobby Petrino and looking at all the comments that I had, it's 4-1 or, 10-1 Bobby Petrino.
Yeah.
I mean, it is – everybody seemed to – and then after the game, it's like that took a major nosedive. That's what I've kind of said. When you're living in the moment, you're losing a game a certain way, opinions can change very quickly. But what I do know is Arkansas is not going to hire a coach that's never lost a game, and probably going to hire a coach that has had a bad season here and there. But there's been a lot of talk, obviously, with Rhett Lashley. That's started off very strong. It's kind of cooled a little bit. Alex Golish, who they lost last week, right?
They did, I believe. Yes.
They lose to Memphis.
Yes.
It's amazing with Ryan Silverfield. People act like Ryan Silverfield would be a terrible hire.
I'd love him. They're like, oh, I don't want another O-line coach. I'd take him in a heartbeat, honestly. I love him.
People tend to athletic directors tend to hire a guy that's the exact opposite of who they had before. But also a line of thinking with people is like, well, the coach that was there before him at Norvell didn't have a lot of success at Florida State, and the coach that was here before him, didn't have success at Virginia Tech, and he's just the next in line to not go off and have success. I don't know why more people aren't interested in Eric Morris when you look at his resume and his ability to evaluate quarterbacks. Recruited Cam Ward when nobody wanted him at Incarnate Word. John Mateer at Washington State, nobody wanted him. I mean, he's a guy that has a pretty good resume, and they 7-1 right now?
Yeah,
in North Texas.
Their quarterback, who was a 0-star with no offers, is leading the nation in passing right now. I don't care if it is North Texas. If you can get the most out of your players, that's what Arkansas needs right now. As far as a ceiling and a floor, how closer can you get to the ceiling for those players and coach them up? That's what Arkansas needs right now.
They need to do more than win. It'd be great to win the press conference and get a lot of initial support and people backing that coach. But it's more important that they get the right coach who proves some stuff and then, maybe has more of that support and that push. But Kane Womack's another guy that I think is intriguing. He may not satisfy enough people as far as his resume, but he is the defensive coordinator at Alabama.
Right.
You know who else was a defensive coordinator at Alabama and did pretty good?
Kirby
Smart. Womack is younger. He went to Fayetteville High School. He went to the University of Arkansas for a couple years playing fullback. His dad was defensive coordinator.
Dave Womack.
What's interesting is I'm talking about Kane as a possibility, but there will be somebody in the comments that says, why are you trying to push Kane Womack on us, Trey? What's with the push? Why are you trying to condition us? It's just like anybody you talk about. Somebody was mad. I talked about PJ Fleck the other day on the radio. I was just like laying down, some of the stuff that's going around. People talking about PJ Fleck. It's a possibility, bringing Drake Lindsey, all this stuff. Of course, then they get beaten pretty bad last week.
Steamrolled by Iowa at home. Yeah. I had a friend up at Iowa, and they sent me a screenshot of the halftime score, and it was 31-0. I said, Iowa must have found an offense. I didn't know it could put a 3 on the Iowa side on the scoreboard. So
I know exactly. But Womack, he's an interesting guy. He's only 38, so he's a younger guy. But he has been a head coach. He went 22-16 at South Alabama, and that includes going 10-3 in 2022. Took the Alabama job because that defensive coordinator job is better than being the head coach. Sumrall we've mentioned, Silverfield we've mentioned. Obviously, we just talked about Fleck. Tony Elliott's another name that's been brought up. People with Elliott, even though he's doing well at Virginia, which it doesn't have a history of winning. Well, he was Clemson offensive coordinator. Don't need another one of them. Just like with Eric Morris at North Texas, don't need another Morris. Will Stein is another name as a coordinator we brought up. He's only 36 years old, but is a guy that's viewed as an up-and-comer. So I don't think that Arkansas would go coordinator past, maybe those guys. Maybe Will Stein is a guy that gets talked about. Maybe
I think that may be a stretch.
Yeah, that may be a stretch too. He seems awful young at this time, but I don't think Womack is that big of a stretch. Do you?
I don't, just because of his resume, him being a head coach, even South Alabama, Sun Belt, the G5 level, that's fine. And then you got to learn at Alabama. That's taking a pretty good resume right there. I'd be okay with Womack being there.
We can scratch a couple of names off the list, I think. I don't think Glenn Schumann will be a guy,
No.
Even though he's also very young, 35, 36 years old. But he's Georgia doesn't have the defense that they've had in the past. So I don't know if that's as sexy a hire. I've also heard that he would only take his next stop and wants to be a blue blood program. I don't know that it would fall to Colin Klein. Do you?
I've heard Colin Klein's name mentioned with Oklahoma State.
I could see that. I could see that with him. Oklahoma State they have not had a lot of resources. They just hadn't. I don't know Jesse Minter. There hasn't been any talk with him. He's a defensive coordinator in the NFL. He's 42. He's from Little Rock with the Los Angeles Chargers. Jamie Chadwell. I don't know, where is Jamie? Where is Liberty gone this season?
Yeah, I think they're right about 500 maybe.
I think they last I looked they were 3-4. Yeah, they're 3-4.
Yeah, they lost to Old Dominion, beat New Mexico State.
The trend isn't there for him. Like a couple of years ago, people would have flipped out to get him. They were 8-4 last year. The year before that, they were 13-1. Like you get him after that 2023 season. Like when we were talking, like Sam Pittman might get fired after the 23 season.
He was hot then, yeah.
He was hot. Like if I told people Jamie Chadwell's coming, they would have been like, they would have loved it.
Yeah.
So, who else? G.J. Kinney. His season's kind of tanked. You got to strike hot. Jeff Traylor, kind of same deal. They've kind of declined a little bit. Yeah. Kenny Dillingham would be a wild card. Keith Grayson seems to be working on it.
Yeah,
he said he might get arrested for all the stuff he's doing. Barry Odom hasn't had a season like he needed to. The time to hire, if you were going to hire Barry, it probably would have been when he was at UNLV. Fran Brown is kind of tanked at Syracuse this season. Dan Mullen said 0.0 interest in Arkansas. I've been told
Hasn't everybody said that? I mean,
that's what coaches say basically, but that's a pretty firm 0.0. Brent Key, I've heard he's not leaving his alma mater, Georgia Tech. I don't know that Clark Lee will leave Vanderbilt, although he probably should. He probably should after this. I mean, I hate to say that, but like, what are the odds that Vanderbilt are going to have a season like they've had this year, or get a quarterback like Diego Pavia?
Yeah, that's the ultimate lightning in a bottle situation right there. Do not let that go. Take it to your next stop, buddy.
It almost just feels like you're an alma mater, Vanderbilt, and you gave Vanderbilt something that maybe they've never had before, and you got to look out for yourself, kind of deal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but who knows? I don't see Lee leaving for Arkansas. I think he could probably leave for a pretty big job if he wanted to. Anyway, Kevin, I've kept you on longer than we negotiated. So, but appreciate you appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you again soon.
Always look forward to it. See you, buddy.
All right, later. That's Kevin Bohannan. You can follow him at Kbo Baseball Guru on X. Helps us out with football. Does basically all of our coverage for baseball. It does a great job for us. Okay, so I mentioned last week we took it on the chin with Bet Saracen, which is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. We only went 1-3, so we fall to 25, 18-2 overall, 5-3 picking hog games. We also missed the Razorback game. But it's time for the wager wagon, so we're going to take it back to this week's game. We're going to try to improve that. I always like to pick SEC games just because I watch mostly SEC football. I watch other things, but I really like to watch SEC football. Obviously, know what's going on around the league. Oklahoma at Tennessee. Tennessee is -3 in this one, and I went back and forth. I like Tennessee. I think, I don't know, something in my head is just like, Tennessee's path to the college football playoff. They just seem like they have a better path, and there's a opportunity to have a really big matchup at the end of the season against Vanderbilt. I'm going to take Tennessee at -3 in this one. I did go back and forth a little bit, but yeah, I think Tennessee, they have a lot of firepower on offense, obviously. Their schedule shapes up pretty good. I don't know that Oklahoma's does the rest of the way. Vanderbilt, so I'm taking Tennessee -3. Vanderbilt is +3 at Texas, and I'm taking Vanderbilt in this one. I'm done betting against Vanderbilt. And who knows what happens with Arch Manning, but I still think I would take Diego Pavia. Who thought before the season or even a year ago, before we knew who Diego Pavia was, whoever thought that you would say, I'd take Diego Pavia over Arch Manning right now, but you would. But Arch Manning, I think he'll probably end up playing. We see more and more these days players who go into concussion protocol play the next week. It used to be there was a time where you did not see that at all. But I think there's a good chance we could see Manning. But if we don't, it's going to be Matthew Caldwell, who played at Troy. I mean, he's never had a big season, even at Troy. I think he threw like 1,600 yards last year. He's from Auburn, Alabama. But I'm on that Vanderbilt train right now, and I think it could be a really big matchup between Vanderbilt and Tennessee in a few weeks. Georgia is -7 versus Florida. Florida has not played since firing Billy Napier. They've not played since they beat Mississippi State 23-21. That was enough to get Napier fired. -7 in Jacksonville. I'm going to take Georgia, even though crazy things happen when coaches get fired. People can rally, all that kind of stuff, support the coach, whatever. I'm going to take Georgia -7 in this one. Auburn at Kentucky. I think Auburn's defense is just good enough to where I think they'll pull away in the second half. I think there's a chance that Kentucky could let go of the rope. I think the new quarterback for Auburn is going to be a boost for them. So I'm going to take Auburn at -11, even though that's a pretty big number. I think that defense is going to create a lot of opportunities for Auburn, and they need to win. Auburn pretty much has to win this game to get bowl eligible and continue working to save Hugh Freeze's job, which wouldn't be a bad thing for Arkansas, in my opinion, as far as coaching search stuff goes. South Carolina, I'm going to take them at +13 at Ole Miss. I think that Ole Miss is going to win the game, but that was a big game for them last weekend at OU. I'm going to take Ole Miss returning home. South Carolina's they lost by 7 points to Bama. They lost by 19 to OU and lost by 10 at LSU and 9 at Missouri and got their doors blown off against Vanderbilt. So it's a hard team to pin down, but I don't know. 13 points for them, I think, is a lot of points. I think Ole Miss wins the game, but I'm going to take South Carolina at +13. And Mississippi State, +4 at Arkansas. And as I've mentioned already, I'm taking Mississippi State in this one by a point just because Arkansas does just enough to lose games. And Mississippi State, to me, is still fighting, even for a chance at bowl eligibility. They've won 4 games. This will give them 5. There's a chance for them still if they win this one. They're a team that's building. Arkansas is a team that hasn't even started their rebuild yet. They're just kind of in limbo. And so I think either team could win, but there were 6 games SEC against SEC this week, so I decided I'd pick all of them. And obviously I'm going to pick the Arkansas game, and so I'm going to go with Mississippi State in this one. Now, not that I didn't like it. It's just like asking Xavier Story and Stephen Dix if they support Petrino, and they were kind of like, as the permanent head coach, they were just kind of like, it's not my place to stay. I thought that was an interesting response, personally, versus Raylan Sharp and Rohan Jones. Raylan Sharp, like, he ought to hire him as his publicist. He was all about Petrino getting this job long term. So, anyway, my thoughts on it. Okay. Those are the Bet Saracen picks right now. Sorry, getting a phone call. Let's go to some questions real quick. We always ask our questions on Hog Sports. Let me get back. I need to get back to him real quick. It's a notable phone call. Sorry. All right. Westhog 21 says, TB, what position is easier for a freshman, offensive line or defensive line? I hate to just not give an answer, but they're both equally difficult. I think they're both very challenging to start. I might say defensive line, especially defensive interior. I think you can get guys who are defensive ends that can come in and help you in certain situations. Both probably equally difficult. I might say offensive line slightly. Are we about to have to start some freshmen on the OL? No. The offensive line, again, like, they had some issues last week. I still think it's not a great offensive line. It's not an average offensive line. It is a middle of the pack, just above middle of the pack offensive line. It is by SEC standards, this is a pretty good offensive line. Maybe you don't even say they're good, but it's a pretty good offensive line. I really believe that. Hogtalica says, Trey, I need your help in beefing up my argument that Arkansas is a football school. Arkansas is a football school. So I said something in the walk and talk, and somebody was like, in my comments, because I was like, we can talk about Arkansas being a basketball school. Somebody who's not paying attention, I guess, because I always make the comment that Arkansas is a football school. And this guy was like, it just shows your ignorance on Arkansas's past and your lack of knowledge. And I was like, dude, you're not paying attention at all. And I wasn't saying that Arkansas was a basketball school. I'm saying that people say that. I know that Arkansas is a football school because I know the amount of traffic that anything I write on football generates, especially in the preseason before, when people's hopes are still up, versus basketball. And basketball is hot, obviously, and basketball draws a lot of attention. But I'm just telling you guys, like, there's a different level to interest in college football in Arkansas versus basketball. And yeah, it's people, basketball is winning and football is not. But like, the negative responses you get, people getting like just ticked off about football, it just tells me enough. That tells me all I need to know. People, just because Arkansas is not good in football doesn't mean that people don't want to be good in football at the highest level. They do. So, yes, I will back up your argument. Football generates 70% of the revenue, actually 74% of the revenue. But what are some other talking points that I think I just did that, Hogtalica. As a publisher, what kind of traffic do you see? Yeah, I didn't even read that. But I just, you're on the same page with me, Hogtalica, even though you got upset with me because I lost faith in Petrino. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like what Petrino had to do. He needed to win Auburn. He needs to win Mississippi State. He needed to win both of those games and then do something against somebody on the road. Like those kinds of things would have put Petrino in position to where I think there would have been a swelling of fans that would have been behind him so much that you almost wouldn't be able to deny it. Especially you win those two games and then we're talking a bye week and then LSU is having some issues with firing their coach. Go down to Baton Rouge and knock off LSU. Come home, team rallies behind him, beat Missouri, like that kind of scenario. That would have been tough to deny him the head coaching job. But dropping to Auburn in the manner that they did with the offense not producing in the second half, that's going to be tough for the fans to take. Like Petrino needed to have a groundswell of fan support behind him to where like you couldn't deny that that's what the fans want, I think. And losing to Auburn hurt that. Raw Hog says, is this coaching search less or more enjoyable than I've never had a coaching search like this. I feel like since this is a long coaching search, it's been less enjoyable than past search. It's going to get there. Like we're going to hit when we get a couple weeks out from this season ending. Kind of did a whistle. Season. Did I have a whistle in my voice? A whistle in my voice. When we get a couple of weeks out from this season, it's really going to ramp up. But no, it's not that it's been less or more enjoyable. It's just I've never had a season, and I've covered a lot of coaching searches, unfortunately, a lot of them. By the way, HawgSports is 75% off if you use the promo code HawgSearch75, HAWG search altogether. It's not case sensitive, 75 altogether. Go to HawgSports.com, select the annual option, enter that promo code. You'll get 75% off. You can join in fun. T.S. Smith 0628 says, is there a name being tossed around behind the scenes that you know about but you just can't say anything? No, I wouldn't say. I don't think we're there yet. I think we are in a lot of contact situations. I think there's agents definitely being contacted, agents pushing their name out. But I don't know that Arkansas is in a state right now where they have their guy or anything. I think that, and no, if there was a name behind the scenes that I know but I can't say, I don't have that name. I mean, it's just the names that everybody has been hearing. We'll find out who this, like we'll start maybe getting closer to who this is maybe a week before it comes out. You know, maybe sooner. Sometimes it happens sooner. Willie B. Hardigan says, Mr. Biddy Bang, where does egg drop soup fall on the soup rankings? I eat a lot of egg drop soup. When I was a kid, I went to Danny Dring's Taekwondo Plus. Shout out if you went to Danny Dring's Taekwondo Plus in North Little Rock. And here's another shout out. Actually, before I went to Danny Dring's Taekwondo Plus, I took a class to study Taekwondo and Korea at Summer Laureate at UALR when I lived in North Little Rock. Anybody go to Summer Laureate? I went every summer. You know, it's like a couple of weeks you go and like it's almost like a camp, but you come home. Anyway, we studied Korea and Taekwondo, and I went to my first Korean restaurant and had kimchi and egg drop soup. And if I remember, the egg drop soup had corn in it, which I don't think I've had since. I don't know what restaurant that was, but I go to Tokyo House in Fayetteville. Shout out Tokyo House. And I get their egg drop soup with a little crispy noodles, and I love it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of egg drop soup. I get it pretty much every time I go to Tokyo House. Where does it fall in the rankings? It almost falls outside. I don't know if I have a ranking for soup. My wife made vegetable soup the other day. It's got chickpeas in it. It's very good. I loved it. It's got squash and potatoes, and I mean it's a good soup. Onion, of course, celery. I don't know if I have a ranking for soup. Brunswick stew is always up there. Cream of mushroom soup. I just eat straight cream of mushroom soup out of Campbell's can. Tomato soup. I'm not a big French onion soup fan. I think I've mentioned. In my refrigerator right now, I have butternut squash soup. I have a lentil dal soup. I have the vegetable soup my wife made. I've got soup options. I eat it pretty much every day. I'll eat soup today. After this show, I will have some soup. Kind of helps the throat a little bit after talking so much. Chili, we're having white bean chili tomorrow for Halloween, and we're having regular chili for Halloween. We're having some people over. So we'll have beef chili at the house. We'll have chicken, white bean chili at the house. Soup. It's all about soup, man. My goodness. Frank Stallone, why can't we seem to fix the in-game environment at Razorback Stadium? The lack of innovation in the department of AD the problem. I mean, like, I was hard on the game atmosphere, but it did bug me with the eastbound and down thing, and just some of the stuff. But like the Tennessee game last year was pretty electric. Part of that's being a night game. Texas A&M game was a lot of fun. I thought it was a great crowd, but part of it's the crowd makes the game. And in that game, not only was that some of that stuff, but it was also like it wasn't a great crowd because of the weather. It was an early game, so people didn't really show up for it, and that impacted everything. But that was a game where you needed the crowd. I don't know. I just think every stadium has their kind of vibe, and I think you could look at some things with Arkansas. More hog calls. I don't know. The hog call shouldn't be like a call to action. It shouldn't be like, all right, everybody, let's stand up and call those hogs. It should be just spontaneous. Like, it's time. They need them. They need you. Call the hogs. It shouldn't be like a reaction even to something happening. It should just be, I don't know. It's a unique thing. It's something that distinguishes Arkansas. It's hard to do a hog call alone. Like, it just doesn't look the same. Also, I want to say this about a hog call. Until like recently, like reading some description of how to do it, I never have heard about these fingers, these jazz fingers. It's always, to me, just been kind of like a handshake. Like, and maybe the fingers wiggle a little bit when you do that, but it's never been this. I don't like this. I don't like this this. Let me know your comments on that. Are you jazz fingers? I don't know about that. Maybe that looks the same. Does that look the same to you? No? It's kind of like that. I don't know. Also, and I haven't heard it as much, but the like there's a dog in the hog call. That was something I felt like maybe in the 2010s, like that kind of started popping up, but you don't really hear that as much anymore. There's no howling in the hog call. Hogball 69, Hogballs 69, great name. Does anyone disagree with Talon always finding a way to lose? It's not always Talon, but Talon hasn't had like this moment where he's just like driven him down the field and won the game. He was kind of robbed of that twice against Memphis. Against Memphis and against Ole Miss. He kind of robbed of that experience. Man, we've gone long. We've gone almost 2 hours. I keep saying that. It throws me off, but it's not 120 minutes the way that's laid out. It's an hour and 20 minutes. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. Let me see. If you could pick one candidate to be the coach right now, who would it be? Like, I get my pick of anybody? Maybe Lane. Yeah, jealous. Anybody? But they're not getting Lane Kiffin, obviously. But like, if you're like any realistic candidate, I could get behind John Sumrall. I think. I think he's going to be a really good coach wherever he lands. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure this will come back and people will be like, remember when you thought John Sumrall was going to be good? Like, everybody thought Billy Napier was going to be good. Went 13-1 at Louisiana. How's the in-game atmosphere in Bud Walton Arena? I haven't been to basketball since I graduated. It's been fun. Like, when they're winning, like, there's nothing like Bud Walton. I mean, I still remember that Auburn game. Like, I remember watching on TV, like going back and watching the halftime, and it's just like everybody's a whiteout and everybody's like, woo. And it's, I mean, it's like dead silent, and they just kind of came in at halftime. The announcers didn't say anything. They just showed the hog call. I thought it was really cool. But Bud Walton, when Bud Walton is rocking, Edgens 56 says, what are your thoughts on Cliff Kingsbury as head coach? I read where there's at least a little smoke with him being a potential candidate. I mean, there's always been a little talk with Cliff Kingsbury. I actually had him on the coaching search hot board, and I think I took him off, but it was from 2023 when I dusted the hot board off and, revised it. I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts on Kingsbury right now. Trey, when's the new coach announced? When the new coach is announced, would you be open to a panel show with you and other Hog Sports contributors, just riffing with reactions and listener questions? Let me know what you think about the format on that. How you talking about? How you talking about setting that up? I don't know. Like, I don't know a lot of these guys in real life, so who knows? I've got a kind of an idea of like what everybody looks like in my head. Isn't that interesting how you do that? Like, we have a message board community, and a lot of these people, I've either seen their picture, I know who they are, but tons of people that I talk to every day, I have no idea what they look like. I just have an idea in my head. And you talk about retaining Petrino as OC. I mean, it would just depend on who the new coach is. The new coach might be an offensive-minded guy. Who knows? Hog Fan for Life says, and that was from 10 Cup 850. Hog Fan for Life 70 says, you personally have a top 3 coaches you would like to see become coach? I would take James Franklin right now. A realistic, even if that's maybe, I don't even know if that's realistic or not, but I know that there has been discussion from what I've been told. There has been talks. There has been parties reaching out and getting in touch. I think Kenny Dillingham would be very intriguing, also at Arizona State. What he did there last year at a program without a lot of resources. Sumrall has obviously been very intriguing to me. But I'm not like against Eric Morris or Alex Golish. I mean, maybe they don't have quite the name behind them as maybe some of the other guys, but I don't know. Those are 3 off the top of my head that jump out. I wouldn't be behind Lashley. I wouldn't be against Lashley. I don't know if I'd say he's like my top choice, but I wouldn't be. I mean, I'm willing to give anybody a chance. I just don't. Not anybody. That's not accurate. I don't want to see them go out and just flub this hire and get somebody that feels like they got outbid or they were last in the pecking order amongst all the coaches. I would like to see Arkansas do something pretty impressive. I think that they're trying to gear up to do that, but we'll see. Who knows how these dominoes end up falling, guys? Like if Ole Miss were to come open and Missouri were to come open and, the dominoes that could fall, who knows? All right, I do have to wrap it up. I think we got pretty close. Yeah, I think we got pretty close. All right, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. Be sure to sign up at HawgSearch75. I also want to mention real quick, there's a link below that you can click on for Bet Saracen. If you make your first bet for $25 or more, you can get $125 in bonuses back. You just use the promo code BIDDY125, capital BIDDY 125. Use the link below, use that promo code, and you'll get $125 back in bonuses. So pretty good deal, 25 for 125. So use that promo. Also sign up for HawgSports at HawgSports.com by using Hawg, HAWG, search altogether 75 as the promo code. You get 75% off for the annual subscription, which is a tremendous deal also. Thanks to our friends at Crain Automotive, at Walker Brothers, Blakeman's, Ozarks Go. Appreciate their support and appreciate all of your support also. Next time you see me, I'll be walking out of Razorback Stadium, hopefully talking about a win with the chest puffed out. I'm not expecting it, of course, just because, things are what they are. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. Thanks to our guest, Steve Robertson from Gene's Page, Kevin Bohannan from HawgSports. And again, thanks to all of you. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you on Saturday.